Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It's great to be with all of you today. It is Tuesday, August 19th, and we have a big show for you today. A lot of big shows coming up here on the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live on Rumble, live on Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, every podcast platform you can ever imagine, YouTube, Facebook, Substack, Patriot TV, X America News on the Twit, and yeah, we're everywhere. Anytime you want to get the Shannon Joy Show via audio at your leisure, of course, we're on all those podcast platforms as well, blasted out by our friends over at Radcast. Big thank you to Inez Annie Cyrus, who is producing the Shannon Joy Show today. And hello to all of you. If you are on the Rumble live chat, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. It is so great to see you and read your comments and say hello. We have Nostradamus joining us on the live chat today. Buskman is with us as well. Opossum King joins us. We have CJP Rumble, Mav 2022, Guitar Lily, of course, joining us on that live chat. And yeah, you see the headlines for today's show. We have a lot linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show regarding the top headlines of today, August 19th, 2025. We'll get into those in a moment. But the top one, Trump accused of protecting Israeli diplomat arrested for attempted child rape in Las Vegas as key Epstein files are set to be released this Friday. There is a lot here, and I'm not surprised if you hadn't heard this story. It is being suppressed in mainstream news media. And yes, the left-wing news media and the right-wing news media. Over the weekend, a traveling Israeli diplomat, a government official, went to I think it was a cyber security technocratic convention in Las Vegas, tried to solicit sex with a minor using the internet, and was caught up in a sting that was conducted by law enforcement in Las Vegas, along with 8 others who were caught up in that sting. The very interesting part of this story are the allegations at this point that the Trump administration has stepped in and diplomatically aided and abetted this guy, hustling him back to Israel within 48 hours of his arrest. And this happened over the weekend. The question is, why does Trump, what is the benefit of Donald Trump and his administration helping sex predators? Now, the administration is officially at this point denying that this occurred. However, there are reports out there that officials have stepped forward from Las Vegas, and they are confirming that the U.S. Trump administration, stepped in and helped arrange for the swift removal of this Israeli official from the United States of America back to Israel, where he now is. So this is a bubbling scandal. Of course, the interesting part of this, it's not being reported by Fox News or Conservative Inc., and it's also not being reported by the mainstream news media. In fact, it was Mediaite that originally wrote the report. They obtained the arrest documents. Then it was reported in Guardian. So Guardian, which is a foreign news organization out of the UK, they then took up that story and pushed it out. And that's about it. Now we do have reporting, some pretty good reporting actually, from an organization named the Electronic Intifada, and they go more into the nature of the case and the allegations of intervention by the Trump administration, which we'll look at in a minute. But, this is par for the course for Donald Trump. It is truly outrageous when you think about it. First, Jeffrey Epstein, then the Tate brothers, the self-admitted pimps and rapists. They are under indictment for allegations of dozens of counts of sex trafficking, not only in Romania, but also in the UK, also running a criminal gang, tampering with witnesses, uh, underage, sexual abuse of a minor in the UK, among other charges. Truly grotesque. And of course, as you know, with the Tates, hundreds of hours of them, in their own words, admitting to trafficking women, using women, being their pimps, using them for money, making them work for OnlyFans and taking in all of the cash. I mean, there is so much evidence there. As you recall, inexplicably, Donald Trump sent Richard Grenell, a special envoy to the president, to Munich to strong arm Romanian officials and arrange for the Tate pimps to return to the United States of America, which they did very quickly with all of their belongings. They thought they were going to set up camp very close to Mar-a-Lago in the state of Florida. They were run out of Florida by the governor, Ron DeSantis, and his attorney general. But that resulted eventually in them going back to Romania. They still face charges. And in fact, things are getting worse and worse for the Tate brothers. But the question is, why would Donald Trump use precious political capital to advocate on behalf of pimps and pedophiles? Why would he use precious political capital, which is disengaging him and alienating him from his core base, the conservative Christian right, as he gaslights them about the nature of the Epstein files and what they contain, after years of telling his audiences and using his access to right-wing conservative media to paint a story, a picture about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files and the little black book and all of the child rapists that were detailed in those sealed files, only to completely gaslight his audience just a few weeks ago, calling them ignorant and idiots if they think that this isn't something cooked up by the Democrats, right? So from the Epstein files to the Tate brothers to Diddy, right? Why on earth would Donald Trump come out in a statement, answer a reporter, and say that he was considering pardoning Diddy after there are multiple videos, I mean, horrifying allegations, but also videos of Diddy, dragging a woman through a hotel hallway back to his hotel room to do God knows what to her. Regardless of what happened in the case, it's still horrifying to witness, very similarly to the Tates. Yet Donald Trump, again, uses political capital and his administration to aid and abet these pretty grotesque characters. Why on earth would you give Combs a pardon if he were to be convicted? And then we now have the stories of Ghislaine Maxwell, who is now being painted by the right as a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, not the madam, not the woman who arranged so many of those illicit and grotesque liaisons between the billionaire class and underage women, and likely young men as well. So she now is getting the preferential white glove treatment from this administration, and even rumors of a presidential pardon for Ghislaine as well. Why? In what way? What type of benefit would this narrative have for Trump and his administration? It makes no sense. And it indicates that there is a larger story here. The administration denies, as I mentioned, intervening to hustle the Israeli diplomat back to Israel after his arrest for soliciting a minor in Las Vegas over the weekend. But unnamed sources insist the Trump administration was involved in paving the way for his return to Israel. It is now unclear whether this guy will ever face justice. It really is disgusting. Why should all of the other child rapists face justice here in the United States of America, but the Israeli diplomat gets special preferential treatment? Regardless of whether it's true or not, this behavior certainly does fit that Trump profile. And so now, after gaslighting and mocking his own base, as I mentioned, regarding the non-release of the Epstein files, it appears amazingly, that a Democrat-led effort to unveil the documents, the Epstein documents, has succeeded. Now, as reported first by Politico yesterday, it's now been picked up by the New York Times and all the major media outlets. Officials with the Department of Justice have caved and informed Politico that the department will begin to provide Epstein-related records to the Oversight Committee this week on Friday. That was a Democrat-led effort, and there were a few Republicans that joined that effort as well. So the first tranche of Epstein files will be released this Friday. We'll be keeping an eye on it here on the Shannon Joy Show. And we are anticipating that this is going to take a while. There is certainly a cover-up in action, but this really makes absolutely no sense. It weaves itself into the Epstein story. You know, this story about this Israeli diplomat certainly has linkages to Trump and his connections with Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein network. And this is an important story. We're going to go over this in detail a little bit more later in the program. But for those of you who don't think this is an important story, and I do hear from you, I see your comments, I get your messages that, you know, this is just a distraction. We're never going to get justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and his clients, the victims of Ghislaine Maxwell. This is a distraction from the technocracy and the building of the techno-fascism here in the US. This is a distraction from their betrayal at HHS in terms of taking the mRNA shots off the market and revealing to the American people the deadly nature of those shots, the continued gaslighting of the vaccine injured and those who were injured or killed by the protocols of COVID lockdowns and forced or coerced injection, right? And I understand all of those stories are important, but I do believe that the Jeffrey Epstein story is almost of utmost importance for a couple of different reasons. The first is that, you know, and we'll get into it right now. Well, first, let me say hello to all of you on the live chat. We are also going to look at a very important piece from Sasha Latipova that dropped just a couple days ago. Where is that $500 million going? We got the headlines from HHS that they are pivoting from mRNA technologies, $500 million cut from future projects. Well, the question is, where is that going? Sasha Latipova with a piece of bombshell as she traces where that funding is going. She calls it the all-in-one and done kill shot to replace COVID mRNA. There are huge red flags about BPL 1357 and BPL 24910, the universal vaccine candidates that Robert Kennedy Jr. and Jay Bhattacharya have talked about in terms of replacing the mRNA technology. It gets worse and worse. Today, in the first segment, we are going to go through Sasha's piece, but we're also going to go through Jay Bhattacharya's op-ed that he dropped last week in the Washington Post. I have read it now 3 times, and every time I read it again, I am more and more concerned with the themes running throughout that op-ed and what it says to us about the future of this HHS administration under Bobby Kennedy, which was supposed to be the tip of the spear in terms of getting justice and a reckoning for what happened in 2020 and beyond. It was also supposed to bring us the truth about the toxicity and the dangers of the mRNA platforms and the COVID shots. Notice they clawed back that $500,000 after the self-amplifying mRNA shots were approved. They are the mother of disastrous mRNA, and also multiple mRNA platforms, including a COVID mRNA vaccine, an RSV mRNA vaccine, were approved by the FDA under the control of Bobby Kennedy's HHS just in the past couple months. So they got the important ones through. They dangled a little $500,000 carrot in front of their Maha audience to give the illusion of breaking apart that apparatus. But it doesn't appear to be the case. We're going to take a look at those two pieces in this first segment of the Shannon Joy Show. We will go into the Epstein angle and its connection to this Israeli official who was charged with child sex crimes in Las Vegas, Nevada over the weekend. And of course, we will get comments and questions and feedback from all of you on the live chat. First, I want to thank one of our amazing sponsors of the Shannon Joy Show. I cannot rave enough about Relief Band. Go to reliefband.com/joy for 20% off. It is the original anti-nausea wristband that quickly relieves and effectively prevents nausea and vomiting associated with motion sickness, anxiety, migraines, hangovers, if you've ever had one of those, morning sickness if you're pregos, and obviously things like chemotherapy. It is legitimately a band that you wear on your wrist that gives you relief from nausea, and you can change the intensity depending on how you're feeling to make it stronger or weaker. It's 100% drug-free, non-drowsy, works immediately before or after your symptoms start, and has absolutely zero side effects. I know this because it has brought so much relief, pardon the pun, for my daughter Mimi, who has suffered with motion sickness in the car since she was a tiny little baby. I have so many memories of poor Mimi vomiting in the car. We'd get in for 15 minutes. We'd have to turn around. We'd do K-turns. I mean, the poor girl, it must have been hundreds of times. I have story after story of just awful situations. And she's 17 now. It has continued throughout her life into adulthood. Nothing has worked. She doesn't like to take Dramamine because it makes her drowsy. This relief band we used last weekend for the first time, and it was an absolute miracle. A 6-hour drive, New York City driving. Okay, so I'm in New York City, starting, stopping, honking at the taxi drivers, you name it. Mimi was just fine as long as she had that relief band on. It is really, for our family, a miracle. It has sold over 1 million devices and is backed by thousands of 4-star raves and reviews, and you can see them all at reliefband.com. That's reliefband.com. Make sure that you use JOY, Joy, my name, for an additional 20% off. So go to reliefband.com, use that promo code JOY. Don't suffer with nausea. Do not suffer with migraines. Don't suffer with any of those symptoms. The Relief Band is a really great way to take care. Diog99, buy the Relief Band. I'm telling you, I did not believe it was going to work. Neither did Mimi. And so I'm now giving it to my dad, actually. We don't have a trip in a while. So I'm going to give it to my dad because he suffers from extreme dizziness, Meniere's disease, and also tinnitus. And so I'm going to give it to him, see if it works. But yes, 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 yes. Diog, I cannot recommend it enough. So let's go to that live chat. Then we're going to get into this Jay Bhattacharya piece that really irritated me. I also want to hear from you guys. Do you think, and Annie, if you can take a look at the live chat, keep an eye on it and scroll through. Do you guys think that the Epstein case, the Epstein story, is of as great importance as I think it is? I have a couple reasons here, which I'm going to get into towards the middle half of the show, as to why I think that the Epstein story might be the story, the biggest story in the world today, the story, the encapsulating story about corruption and crime families and criminal cartels and money laundering, sex trafficking, the billionaire class, the oligarch class, and all of the things that have come to define this corruption in post-industrial 21st century here in the US. It is an umbrella story that sits over all institutions and all parties. And those are just a few of my reasons. But yes, let me know. And please pop those reasons into the live chat. Put them in live caps or all caps. Annie will copy and paste them and throw them up in my show notes so that I can get back to them. And you know, we will certainly talk about this. Guitar Lily is with us on the live chat. Susie Joy is with us as well. Great to see you, Susie Joy. Love your name. That's amazing. Mark the Regan is with us. Clones is with us on the live chat here in the Shannon Joy Show. LT Oracle of Truth, Diog99, of course, with us on the live chat. And let's get into it. Let's start with this piece from Jay Bhattacharya. This is an op-ed, and there's so much here that I've read it 3 times. I do not have this linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show, but Annie, if you could go to Washington Post and just search up Jay Bhattacharya, why the NIH is pivoting away from mRNA vaccines. That's the headline. And maybe pop that up into the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show or on the comment section and in the live chat if people want to take a look at this. It is behind a paywall on my Twitter account. If you search it up, I provided a screenshot and also the full text of the op-ed for those of you who don't want to pay for it. I get it. Washington Post. Why would you? Susie is so full of joy. I love it. But this is important. This op-ed is critical because I think it is laying out the agenda for NIH and for Health and Human Services as we move forward over the next 6 to 12 months under Bobby Kennedy Jr. And it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for truth. It doesn't look good for justice for those who were crushed during COVID lockdowns, by COVID lockdown protocols, by COVID-19 kill protocols in hospitals and nursing homes, and of course, the ultimate rollout of Operation Warp Speed and the kill shots. It appears they are going to be replacing the COVID kill shots with a new technology, and this will be what they are calling a universal vaccine that includes what is known as beta propiolactone, BPL, in inactivated whole viruses to generate a broader immunity against viral families rather than individual variants. And this is as written in Sasha Latopova's piece, which is linked in the Shannon Joy Show notes today. So while they are trying to get us to pivot, to celebrate a pivot away from mRNA, it looks like they're going to replace them. And so this is why these 2 pieces, Jay Bhattacharya's and Sasha Latopova's, are important here. So let's go through it. This is what he had to say. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services decision to wind down its mRNA vaccine development activities, he writes, marks a necessary pivot in how we steward public health innovations and vaccines. Now, this is my first issue with this statement because it is built in large part on a lie. They have canceled $500,000, or what is it, 500 million? I'm not sure what it is. 500,000 doesn't seem like enough. Yeah, it's 500 million. My bad. So it's a decent number, but really a drop in the bucket when you consider, $32 trillion spending bills. Anyway, 500 million. They have canceled those contracts and they are redirecting those monies into new technologies. But there is still plenty of action happening on mRNA, and it is being funded by HHS. And we've detailed that extensively here on the Shannon Joy Show. Last time I had Dr. Mary Talley Bowden on the program, she talked about 500 plus new mRNA technologies that are in the hopper for development, fast track approval by the FDA, and also some which have government funding. They didn't redirect all of the money away from mRNA. In fact, we know they have already approved a bunch of mRNA technologies prior to this statement. So this idea that they are going to move away from mRNA is slightly true, but not fully true. And that's essentially the story of the rest of this op-ed. So he said we have to pivot how we steward public health and innovation in vaccines. All right. He then goes on to say this, and you tell me what you think about this statement. The mRNA platform is promising technology, he writes. I do not dispute its potential. In the future, it may deliver breakthroughs in treating diseases like cancer, and HHS is continuing to invest in ongoing research on applications in oncology and other complex diseases. So they're moving away from mRNA for vaccines, specifically COVID vaccines, but they are expanding mRNA into self-amplifying mRNA, mRNA for treating cancers, and of course, other complex diseases. So which is it, right? He's talking out of both sides of his mouth. But as a vaccine intended for broad public use, he says, especially during a public health emergency, there's another lie. They hyped up the COVID health emergency. We know that. Okay. So lie number one, lie number two, lie number three. But if you're going to accept that COVID-19 was a public health emergency, he writes here, the platform has failed a crucial test. Now, you would think the next words would be safety, efficacy. It doesn't work. It kills people. It maims people. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. The lipid nanoparticle technology is not limited to just the injection site. It is distributed through all the organs. It has all sorts of toxic chemicals, all sorts of mechanisms of injury and death, which there are now mountains of evidence out there. Japan studies, German studies, Canadian studies, US studies, all at our fingertips. But no. The critical, crucial test, according to Jay Bhattacharya, of the mRNA technology, particularly with COVID vaccines, is earning public trust. I kid you not. The big problem is that you dummies in the public, you idiots who didn't want to take it, who refused to take it, don't trust it. That was the critical failure. That was the problem. Not efficacy, the fact that it doesn't work, not safety, the fact that it kills people, evidenced by over 30,000 reports of death post-injection at the vaccine adverse event reporting system, which Jay doesn't seem to care about. No, that's not the problem. The problem is you. We, the people, the plebes, don't trust them. And that's where that crucial test was failed. He said, no matter how elegant, listen to that, no matter how elegant the science, a platform that lacks credibility among the people, right? Not the scientists, not the bureaucrats, not the health officials. All the health officials acknowledge that it saved millions of lives, including Jay, including Bobby Kennedy Jr., and including this president. Do you see my problem here with this op-ed? Like how it is based on one lie after another after another. It sounds no different than Fauci era propaganda pieces, Birx era propaganda pieces. It is acknowledging and accepting foundational lies. And we're only 1/3 of the way through this op-ed. Do you see now why I'm irritated with this? Why I don't choose today to give grace to Jay Bhattacharya or trust his plan or trust Bobby Kennedy Jr. when they will take to the Washington Post and write an op-ed that is based on one lie after another, a lie that they know exists, that they have acknowledged in the past. Now a complete 180, looking us right in the face, in the eyes, telling us that they are our champions, that they care about us when they do this. Not okay. No matter how elegant the science, a platform that lacks credibility among the people, it seeks to protect cannot fulfill its public health mission. Okay, Jay. He then goes on, it's critical to understand that the development of the mRNA coronavirus vaccines in the context of the very successful Operation Warp Speed. Yes, he goes there. The mechanism that created the most toxic, deadly vaccine in the history of vaccine development because it was rushed, because they skipped steps, they omitted long-term studies, they lied about the clinical trials as evidenced by Brooke Jackson and her $1 trillion lawsuit against Pfizer, in which the federal government, the military industrial complex, ordered the fraudulent shot and was provided that shot by their partners over at Pfizer, right? So Operation Warp Speed now, according to Jay Bhattacharya, was very successful. And it was launched during the first Trump administration. Operation Warp Speed, he says, represents, and this is why I'm talking about if you want to understand the long-term goals of this HHS administration and Jay Bhattacharya, you have to read this op-ed. You have to understand where they're going. They are going to replicate and duplicate and accelerate Operation Warp Speed. The single worst thing that has ever happened to the American people. He said Operation Warp Speed represented a paradigm shift in how the government should invest in new technologies and solutions. So invest in new technologies and solution, meaning handing billions, if not trillions of dollars to their pharmaceutical partners, paying for research and development, paying for marketing schemes, paying for distribution, socializing the risk, right? Or I'm sorry, privatizing the risk and socializing the negativities. So essentially he's saying the government should invest in new technologies and solutions and embrace, as I mentioned, strategic investments in public-private partnerships. That would be fascism, okay? That is big government coming together with big corporations and working together to suppress the free market and to suppress individual liberty and choice through coercive messages. That was Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed was the mechanism that paved the way and built the infrastructure for Joe Biden to inflict his horrifying coercive measures and for state governments to inflict their horrifying coercive measures and for private companies, private corporations, private universities, and the United States military to inflict their horrifying coercive measures to trick and pummel people into accepting a shot against their will. That was the legacy of Operation Warp Speed. And for the little guy, Jay Bhattacharya, that was not successful. In fact, it was a complete bastardization. It's everything that is wrong with the medical industrial complex. And yet you and Bobby Kennedy Jr. are embracing this. Are you guys getting bored with this? Are we going too deeply into this? Does anyone care about this anymore? Or are we satisfied to just to accept the carrots that they dangle in front of us and the fake wins and the false headlines and the propaganda and the lies that they're peddling at us day in and day out from MAHA, medical freedom outlets, conservative media, and of course, left-wing media? Operation Warp Speed, he said, is the future. So Jay Bhattacharya is embracing Operation Warp Speed. It's the future. It embraces and must in the future embrace strategic investments in public-private partnerships, innovation in trial design. Oh, the same innovation in clinical trials that Pfizer used to cheat and lie and fast track the COVID mRNA shots. Those clinical trials, Jay Bhattacharya, why don't you talk to Brooke Jackson and her attorneys about the fraudulent trials? Why don't you talk to Naomi Wolf and the team of thousands of medical doctors and scientists and researchers who poured through the Pfizer papers and found all sorts of horrifying developments that were covered up, that were shut down, that were ignored? That's what you want moving forward? Jay, are you kidding me? The removal of bureaucratic red tape to allow parallel rather than sequential vaccine development. It produced a new vaccine in record time, says Jay, and also helped develop a successful monoclonal antibody. You call that a success? Operation Warp Speed was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. And the innovation in trial design was no clinical trials or long-term clinical trials, using the public as unsuspecting lab rats. Remember that? Remember the emergency use authorization that essentially turned the entire United States of America and every person who had a COVID shot into a clinical trial participant against their will, without their knowledge, without informed consent? Is that what you like, Jay Bhattacharya, in terms of removing red tape and fast tracking the process and innovating trial design? Falsification of data? Jay Bhattacharya, is that what you mean? What about the removal of liability from pharmaceutical corporations and anyone involved in the administration of the kill shot, including pharmaceutical companies, pharmacies, pharmacy personnel, medical doctors, nurses, marketing executives, bureaucratic officials, federal employees, state employees, local health departments, everyone immune, everyone never ever having to face responsibility for recommending the shots, administering the shots, ignoring adverse events in regards to the shots. All of that was in place. And you want to duplicate it. You want to double down on it, Jay Bhattacharya? You want to do that again and make that the gold standard for rolling out a vaccine? Are you crazy? If you wonder, as I mentioned, why I'm not satisfied with HHS, I'm not satisfied with NIH, I'm not satisfied with Jay Bhattacharya, it gets worse. It gets worse. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to take a couple of your comments on this. We're only halfway through. This op-ed is everything. It needs to be scrutinized. It needs to be taken apart. It needs to be parsed. You need to pull out quotes, and we need to hammer them with their own quotes. This cannot stand. This cannot stand. This is a doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on everything that went wrong in the rollout of COVID era protocols, and particularly Operation Warp Speed and the killer COVID shot. This is not moving forward. These are not wins. These are not gains. We are now moving backwards, and we're moving backwards quickly. This is why your voices are critical. We need to penetrate the propaganda bubble that is being pushed out by Maha and advocates and sycophants for this administration. This is bad. We'll be back in a moment to continue this discussion right here on The Shannon Joy Show. Our friends over at Native Path. Hey, you guys know that my morning routine, one of the ways I stay healthy, almost 50 years old. I can't believe that I am almost halfway through a natural life. And one of the ways that I maintain a pain-free lifestyle and great hair, nails, and skin. Also, it's just a great way to restore collagen. You guys know it is my favorite, Native Path collagen. Every single morning in my coffee, it is a must. I use Native Path collagen. Devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy uses Native Path collagen for his joint pain. It has helped him in so many ways. And I believe every person over the age of 40 should be implementing collagen into their diet on a regular basis. Reduces inflammation. There are so many good outcomes from that daily use of collagen. And Native Path collagen is the best on the market. It dissolves instantly. It has absolutely no taste. It is protein. It's beef derived, and it is absolutely clean. The best part, it is the best price point that you will find on collagen anywhere in the market. You won't find these price points at the drugstore. You won't find these price points at your discount grocery center. It is the best collagen for the best price, and you can only get it at getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. That's getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. Use that joy promo code for an additional 45% off. It's the only way you're going to get that stock up sale price. And I just recommend it. I've been using collagen for years. People ask me, how do you stay so young and vibrant, Shannon? And one of my secrets is, of course, Native Path Collagen. Gold and silver has been in kind of a sideways up down. It hasn't really grown a lot, but this is part of a larger trend that Jesse Colombo has been watching over the past couple of years. And he is predicting that gold could rise another $900 in just the next couple of months. And silver is not far behind. There's a lot of chatter about silver as well being suppressed artificially by the big gold and silver companies for many, many years, but it continues to break out and continues to maintain the value that it has right now. The point of all of this being that if you are invested 100% in the stock market, if you're concerned about your 401k, if you're concerned that your IRA or 401k could lose its value or even be manipulated by new legislation that is opening the door up to private equity and also cryptocurrencies within your 401k or IRA, now is the time to have a conversation about this with our friends over at Colonial Metals Group. It is so easy to move a portion of your 401k or IRA into gold and silver backed instruments. It is a hedge against this chaos and the corruption, and it can back up your savings. You have been working too hard for too long to save. You've done everything that is right. And the fact that these corrupt and nasty politicians, left and right, are going to come in and screw things up so badly that regular Americans might not have, access or their investments might not be able to cover their expenses into retirement is just atrocious. And this is why so many Americans are moving into gold and silver backed investments. Colonial Metals Group is the company I trust. Go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. It does not hurt to have a conversation. They are amazing. They know this audience and they will walk you through this process. It's super easy. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Quick discussion about collagen. As you guys know, my protocol in the morning is everything. One of the missions here at the Shannon Joy Show is to stay healthy. We need to be as naturally healthy as humanly possible so that we can stay out of the medical industrial complex. We don't want to be on pharmaceutical products. We don't want our bodies to be susceptible to viruses or anything that they are subjecting us to. We don't want to have to rely on the medical industrial complex or pharmaceutical companies in order to exist and survive. And that means daily, like a lifestyle of healthy living and getting the nutrients that we need. And as you guys know, collagen is a regular part of my daily routine for health. It's also now a part of my husband, devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy's daily routine as well. And this is because it is known as the crucial building block for your bones, your joints, muscles, tendons, and ligaments, as well as your skin, hair, and nails. So as we age, we just stop producing. We don't stop producing collagen, but it really slows down. You need to put it back in your body. And this is why daily collagen is so very important. And my favorite collagen, of course, is Native Path Collagen. Why? Because it is the best. It is the cleanest. It is 100% grass-fed bovine collagen. So no plant-based anything here. It has one ingredient, nothing else is added. It's hydrolyzed collagen, which is the best kind. It dissolves perfectly into any liquid, hot or cold. It's that clean. It also has only the types 1 and 3 collagens. And as I mentioned, it's sourced only from very, very happy cows, happy, grass-fed, free-range bovine cows. So no marine, egg, or chicken sources at all. It is also the lowest cost on the market per serving with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You will not get better collagen for a lower price point than you will with Native Path, but you have to go to my site, which is getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. That is getnativepathcollagen.com/joy for 45% off. And yes, 95 day? What did I say? 65 day, 365-day money back guarantee. You can send them back empty containers if you don't like it, but you're going to love it. So make sure you get your discount today. Go to getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. From the live chat regarding this outrageous piece from Jay Bhattacharya that we are going through. It is the op-ed in Washington Post that no one's really covering. It's behind a paywall, and we're not really hearing a lot about it from the medical freedom community or MAHA. It is a disaster, though. It's the blueprint. It is the roadmap for the future of HHS and NIH under Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Jay Bhattacharya, and they are doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down, not only on mRNA, but on Operation Warp Speed and the mechanism that brought the COVID shots to market in a disastrous way. There is no reckoning. There is no justice. There's no acknowledgement of the COVID vaccine injured. None whatsoever yet by Jay or Bobby Kennedy in their capacities as the head of HHS and NIH. It's very disgusting. And so we went through the first half of the piece. He goes on. First and foremost, what does he say? That they're pivoting away from mRNA. No, they aren't. I proved that to you in the first half of the show. They're also, the statement that mRNA is elegant. It's the most promising technology, and we're not using it for vaccines, but we'll use it for everything else. We'll also use and fund mRNA as well. Right? The only drawback is that you idiots, you morons, the people failed to trust it, right? And that was Biden's fault because Biden used a policy of coercion and manipulation. And he goes on in this piece to, lambast Biden, not for rolling it out, but for not adequately earning the public trust around the vaccine. And so he says, unfortunately, the Biden administration, unfortunately, so it's a bad thing that the Biden administration did not achieve public trust in the coronavirus vaccines. Again, nothing wrong with the vaccines, nothing wrong with the mRNA. The problem is that the Biden administration, right, mismanaged or did not manage the public trust in the coronavirus vaccine, largely because not because it was a bad vaccine or it was unsafe or not effective, but because it chose a strategy of mandates rather than a risk-based approach and did not properly acknowledge Americans' growing concerns regarding safety and effectiveness. Well, were those concerns valid? As you know, here on the show, we have dedicated dozens upon dozens of shows to medical doctors, scientists, researchers, foreign researchers from the Netherlands and Japan and Germany, dozens and dozens of research paper, autopsy reports about the mechanisms of harm from the COVID-19 vaccines. We've had Ed Dowd on the skyrocketing, mortality rate, not just in the US, but across the globe. I mean, there are literally mountains upon mountains of information. We have VSafe data. We have VAERS data. We have Aaron Siri and his lawsuits. There is so much there, right? Jay Bhattacharya can't acknowledge any of it. The problem is that the Biden administration did not manage your trust. It was a great vaccine. He just didn't succeed in convincing you to take it, according to Jay Bhattacharya in this piece. He goes on to say that trust problem, right? It's not about whether or not it's safe or effective. He goes on to say that the failure was a trust problem due to the Biden administration's scientific overreach, public pressure, and frankly, arrogance. He goes on to say, we lack clarity on how much antigen each mRNA molecule produces, where in the body the mRNA product winds up, how long it stays in the body, and whether unintended proteins are created. So we don't know. Okay. He says that, we don't have the trust there, and it is unknown, certain specifics about this vaccine, how long it stays in the body, where it goes. Does he mention? I mean, we know that it doesn't stay in the deltoid. We know that it is distributed throughout the body and all the organism or organs. I mean, you can take that to the bank. He said from a regulatory perspective, getting approval for a vaccine with such inherent uncertainties should be difficult. But then he goes on to say, still, I do not believe the mRNA vaccines caused either mass harm on the one hand or saved 14 million lives on the other. So we don't know what it does. We don't know where it goes. We don't know how it works. We really don't know anything about it. It should be difficult to get an approval for that vaccine, but we love Operation Warp Speed, which forced the approvals based on fraudulent studies. All right, so we don't know anything about this, but I do not believe. Is that science, Jay Bhattacharya? You just admitted we lack clarity on how much antigen each mRNA molecule produces. We lack information on where in the body the mRNA product winds up. We lack information on how long it stays in the body and whether unintended proteins are created. Jay, you just wrote that. From a regulatory perspective, getting approval for that kind of vaccine should be difficult. Yet you love Operation Warp Speed and you want to repeat this in the future if there's another pandemic. None of this makes sense. In addition, despite all of that, all of the things you don't know, Jay, all of the things that you don't know about the mRNA, I do not believe the mRNA vaccine caused mass harm. How? How do you know, Jay? Where's your science? Where's your proof? Where's your data? Where are the studies that prove the mRNA vaccines are safe? Come on. Are you a priest? Are you the high priest for vaccine belief and trust in the United States of America, where you would issue a statement like that in an op-ed and claim to be a scientist and claim to be without hubris and possessing humility, which you go on to say when you virtue signal? You are admitting here you have no freaking idea and you don't want to know. Why not do the studies, Jay? If you don't know, why don't you do the studies? You have billions of dollars at your fingertips at NIH. You direct that money. You're the boss. You're the one who decides how that money is allocated and what is studied and what is not studied. Yet you refuse to do so. I do not believe that mRNA vaccines cause mass harm. Unbelievable. This is outrageous. Or on the other hand, he said saved 14 million lives. Those estimates, he writes, swing wildly based on speculative modeling, not concrete evidence. Well, get the evidence then, Jay. What in the hell are we doing here? You are telling us we don't have the data. We don't have the evidence. So get the evidence so that you can avoid the confusion, so that there's no more question. Yet you won't do it. And then he goes on to say, and then in an offhand, right? So he doesn't agree that it was 14 million, right? That it saved 14 million lives. But then he throws this in and he links it in the op-ed. A recent modeling study. Okay, this is not a peer-reviewed scientific whatever. It's a modeling study. The same shit that was used by the modelers who predicted the pandemic in the first place and said it was going to kill 8.2 gazillion people. Unbelievable. But he puts it in his op-ed and he links you to it. And the science concluded that the global coronavirus vaccination campaign saved 2.5 million lives from 2020 to 2024, mainly among the elderly. The scientific controversy over the vaccine's effect on mortality rages on. Okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Are we going to get to a study? Are we going to find out the truth? He goes on to say, I'm not here. This is what he's going to do about it. He's not going to do anything. I'm not here to litigate the past, he writes. I'm here to chart a better path forward. That's why the NIH, under the leadership of HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr., is investing in new vaccine technologies based on whole virus inactivated vaccines, which offer a broader immune response and have a longer track record of safety and public acceptance. We are continuing the Operation Warp Speed model of investing in technology with the most potential to help the American people. So he is going to invest in new technologies using the model of Operation Warp Speed, which brought us the disastrous results that we have today from the COVID-19 vaccines. But there's nothing wrong with the COVID vaccines, or at least he doesn't know that. He just believes it. That is not science. That is a bastardization of science. That is Fauci science. He goes on, he virtue signals here. Science isn't about propaganda. It's humility. And when public health officials stop communicating with humility, we lost much of the public, an absolute necessity for any vaccine platform. I don't trust you, Jay Bhattacharya, because this op-ed is based on lie after lie after lie. You've done nothing to gain my trust. You haven't heard you haven't earned anyone's trust at this point. When you admit you know nothing about the mechanisms of harm of these vaccines on the human body. This is horrifying. It's horrifying. The only way to rebuild trust, he says, is to earn it. One honest conversation at a time. And what are they investing in? Well, that's the other piece that is linked here in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show, Sasha Latipova. They're investing in what she calls the all-in one and done kill shot round 2 to replace the mRNA. It is the $500 million, and it is going to organizations and pharmaceutical corporations to develop new types of technology using what is called beta propiolactone, inactivated whole viruses to generate broader immunity against viral families, among other horrifying ingredients. Okay. So her piece is exhaustive. It is the first shot across the bow in dismantling whatever it is Jay Bhattacharya and Bobby Kennedy Jr. have up their sleeves in their new strategic partnership with the pharmaceutical corporations like Moderna and Pfizer, who they were enemies with apparently just a few short months ago. There are huge red flags on the RFK and NIH endorsed BPL 1357, and this is what they say will replace the mRNA, and BPL 24910 universal vaccine candidates, including, this is according to Sasha Latipova, this is all out there. This is just the BLP, okay? Twice it has been classified as a carcinogen. It has been found to cause tumors in animal studies dating back almost a decade. There are problems with genotoxicity, mutagenicity, concerns about damage to human DNA, and also mutations. There's also teratogenicity, concerns about reproductive harm and fetal harm. And these platforms at this point have the Maha blessing and the blessing from NIH, Jay Bhattacharya, and Robert Kennedy Jr., plus massive funding and mega profit models to benefit NIAID officials and government-connected grifters. Yes, the head of NIAID, as explained by Sasha in her piece, does have patents, very, very valuable and lucrative patents in some of these new technologies. It is Fauci 2.0, Operation Warp Speed 2.0, the medical industrial complex in its full glory. Now let's add artificial intelligence and all of the other horrifying developments in technology to all of this, including wearables, with which Bobby Kennedy Jr. plans on having us all on in the next 4 years. Every American on a wearable, Bobby Kennedy Jr. said in a statement of testimony just about a month ago, in 4 years. Every American on a wearable. That is the collection of your data by the federal government. Do you feel comfortable with this new administration? Are you happy with this development? That was the Jay Bhattacharya piece. We'll link it up in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. Sasha Ladapova's piece is up as well. I went a little bit longer on that than I intended to. Susie Joy K, Shannon Joy. Fauci told Trump to use the phrase warp speed. He said he wanted warp speed and safe and effective directly attributed to Trump because Fauci knew that they were dangerous shots. That could be the case. Peace to all is with us. Also, I don't even understand what that comment is. Well, what do you guys think about that? I went a little bit long. And what are your thoughts? LT Oracle of Truth said, yes, this is yet another humiliation ritual. Karen Carpenter 27, the madness and death will continue as long as people continue to allow themselves and their loved ones, pets and food to be poisoned. We all have to say no. Nautical is with us on the live chat. Wearables are the global crime cabal's fantasy. Rothan Walker. So are we not actually really going to talk about the Israeli diplomat thing or just talking about jabs again? No, we're actually just about to get into what happened with the Israeli diplomat. We will start that discussion today. Rothan Walker, but I thought that this piece by Jay Bhattacharya was incredibly, incredibly important because, as I mentioned, it is the roadmap. It gives you the agenda for this administration. Cover up the crimes of COVID lockdowns, cover up the crimes of Operation Warp Speed, cover up the crimes of the Biden administration, the democide that happened in hospitals and nursing homes, cover up the crime of mass poisoning using the COVID shots, and not only covering those up, using HHS and our own people, our own champions in those positions of power, but double and triple down on the mistakes that were made. There is no reckoning. There is no justice, at least from this administration. That doesn't mean we can't get justice from the bottom up, from the state level. Doesn't mean we can't win lawsuits, which we're winning. Doesn't mean that we can't stop bills at the state level, refuse to comply, refuse to engage with any of the platforms that they're rolling out. There are a million things that we can do. I think it is time, though, that we acknowledge that Trump is the enemy, and those in positions of power at HHS are very, very quickly aiding and abetting not only Trump, but Biden and the administration in the cover up. Rothan Walker, if it was just a headline, but no real discussion, whatever, Rothan, we're getting to it right now. We have a full day to discuss this tomorrow with our friend, the last American vagabond, Ryan Christian, will be with us tomorrow to continue this discussion, which we are going to start on the Trump administration and the shielding of what it appears to be an Israeli official charged with child sex crimes. Now, the Trump administration, this is from a publication called Electronic Intifada, which is probably more of an Arab-leaning or left-leaning publication. But I did vet everything that they have here. This is the best reporting I was able to find. And I vetted it and compared it to the reporting at Mediaite and also The Guardian, which are organizations and publications that I have used in the past and that do a good job. So this is, we're gonna pivot now to the discussion of this Israeli official that was arrested over the weekend trying to engage in a sex act with a minor using the internet. The allegations now are that the Trump administration is aiding and abetting them, shielded this official, and helped extradite them back to Israel in a swift fashion, literally 48 hours, it seems, after the arrest. This is another example of Donald Trump now aiding and abetting and covering up for sexual predators. The U.S. government now is denying that it helped a senior Israeli official leave the country after his arrest on a serious child sex crime charge. And on Monday, the Israeli-born top U.S. federal prosecutor in Nevada confirmed that she is declining to prosecute the official, leaving the matter instead to local authorities, which is insane. right? This is an Israeli official, a diplomat here in the United States of America, not necessarily on official business, but as a representative of the government of Israel. This is an international scandal. It should not be handled by local officials, but the U.S. federal prosecutor says that she is punting on this. They write a sign that the United States under Donald Trump is trying to downplay the matter and shield Israel and the accused pedophile from the consequences of his action. The Department of State is aware that Tom Artiom Alexandrovich, an Israeli citizen, was arrested in Las Vegas and given a court date for charges related to soliciting sex electronically from a minor. The U.S. Foreign Ministry's Near Eastern Affairs Bureau posted this on Twitter on Monday. This was after reporting from Mediaite, who found the original documentation. In fact, if Mediaite had not pushed that out, and if it had not been picked up by The Guardian, I don't know that anyone would have even known about this, because he was caught up in a sting. There were 8 perps that were caught up in this, and it might not have made any news whatsoever. So thank you to Mediaite, and thank you to Guardian, and also Electronic Intifada. He did not claim diplomatic immunity, according to the documents, and I've seen the documents and the police report, which we'll go through in greater detail tomorrow. But this fellow, Alexandrovich, this dirtbag, did not claim diplomatic immunity and was released by a state judge pending a court date. Any claims that the U.S. government intervened, says the State Department, are false. But that is being disputed by local officials, law enforcement officials who are anonymous at this point. And this is being pushed out by a fellow named Sean King. I don't know if you remember Sean King, but he's a lefty, kind of a loony lefty. He is black, but he really looks white. It's a very strange situation. And I mean, he's been in the news, not necessarily the most trustworthy, but on his Substack, he is doubling down, saying that he has officials who are corroborating. They're saying that, yes, 100%, the Trump administration intervened on behalf of this official. And the denial, and then this is reiterated here in the piece, the denial is unlikely to quell concerns about Alexandrovich, the executive director of the Defense Division of Israel's National Cyber Directorate. Okay, so that was his position. So the denial is unlikely to quell concerns that he was given special treatment, especially amidst ongoing controversy over the U.S. and Israeli government's links to pedophile child trafficking by the mastermind Jeffrey Epstein. So this is where this all links together. Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke out on Twitter about this, saying pedophiles should not be released. They should face justice, said Taylor Greene, no matter what country they come from. Now, the other pedophiles were also released. They paid $10,000 in bail or bond, and they were released. But he is a flight risk. He has left for Israel. It's not clear that he'll ever come back, especially to face local charges, right? So this guy looks like he's going to get away scot-free. The question is, did the Trump administration intervene on his behalf? Meanwhile, Tom Massey has also spoken out on this situation. He posted yesterday that Americans want transparency about Epstein, not smoke and mirrors. So this is also on the heels of the announcement that despite Trump's best efforts to suppress the release of the Epstein documents and documentation, that led a Democratic-led effort to get the files released has succeeded, and they will be released. The first tranche of those files will be released this Friday. That we'll keep an eye out on for that. And yeah, I mean, listen, you don't even really need, I mean, many people will say, well, this is proof that the United States of America is in bed with or controlled by the government of Israel. I think that that is a valid concern. I think there's definitely evidence that the two governments work together and they protect one another, especially in the issue of Epstein. There's the problem of intelligence and these honeypot traps. That was one of the things that Jeffrey Epstein and his network was famous for. That is drawing in high net worth and very powerful bureaucrats, diplomats, billionaires, you name it, getting them into compromised positions and then getting documentation of that. Many say that that was on behalf of Mossad, the Israeli Central Intelligence Agency. And, that's likely true, but there are other central intelligence agencies out there as well, including the British and the United States of America. And from my perspective, it's not clear who is wagging the dog at this point, right? Who's in control, Israel or the US? Could Israel exist without the US? I don't know. Could the US exist without the intelligence organizations and the British? I mean, all of it is very muddled and very messy. It permeates the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, all of the institutions of government, our judicial system, you name it. I mean, this is everywhere. It's the biggest story out there. And certainly Israel is implicated. I've said many times that the government of Israel, I believe, is a criminal operation. I have said the similar thing about the U.S. government, a cartel at this point. Their treatment of their citizens, especially during COVID, was abhorrent. They sold their people as experiments to Pfizer, among other things, and were one of the worst governments on the face of the planet in terms of totalitarian, fascistic COVID lockdowns and protocols. So there is an enormous amount of criticism for Israel, but we also have criticism for the United States of America as well. And at this point, though there's a lot of speculation, it's hard to know, as I said, who is wagging the dog here, who is really in control. I think it is clear, though, that we are dealing with powerful oligarchs, shadowy governments, people who are controlling many of our elected officials, including the president of the United States of America and probably the president of Israel as well. This is why everything about the Epstein case, and now the links between the Epstein case, this Israeli official, also, Sean Diddy Combs, also the Tate brothers, also the Epstein Files. This is about money laundering. This is about the building of criminal cartels. This is about sex trafficking. This is about bringing in and blackmailing and coercing officials into serving the oligarch power structure, that billionaire, trillionaire, global power structure, as opposed to the people of the United States of America. And for that reason, I do think that this is one of the most important cases in the United States of America and the world. And the fact that this case of the Israeli official that was hustled back to Israel within 48 hours of being scooped up in a pedophile bust, right, is extraordinary. You would think that New York Times and the left-wing news media and CNN, MSNBC, all of those outlets would salivate over something like this so that they could hammer Trump, but they're not covering it. You would think that this would be a larger headline, especially from conservatives who seem to care about sex trafficking, right? They love to run stories and headlines about horrifying sex traffickers and the busts that are executed by this administration. But on this particular bust, it is crickets. Huge thanks to Mediaite for running the story first. We're going to go to a quick break. Then we're going to have a quick final segment. We'll run one commercial. Then I'll get some of your comments. Again, this is the beginning of the coverage of this story. We are going to have Ryan Christian in with us tomorrow to go over this, among other things. And we'll continue the discussion. So quick break, one commercial. We'll come back, take your comments, and close out the Shannon Joy Show. Keep it tuned right here. Sat123.com is an amazing company. Again, on the theme of chaos and cyber attacks, lockdowns, shutdowns, natural disasters, rogue governments, World War III, right? We cannot predict what is going to happen in the next 10 days, let alone the next 10 months, right? This news cycle moves so fast, and it's why many Americans are uneasy and preparing in a million different ways, whether it's gold and silver to protect your family if there's an economic collapse, to protect your retirement if there's an economic collapse, also getting food and water and those necessities that can, support your family if there is a lockdown or a shutdown. And right here, I mean, we're going to get to this in a minute, but Israel is in another lockdown situation right now. So this is why it's so important to just have everything prepared. And the satellite phone store, in addition to having satellite phones, again, if cellular goes down, the 5G, 4G, 3G, the towers go down, there's a cyber attack, all you have is the satellite phone, right? And it works, right? This is a way for you to be in contact with your friends and family to let them know that everything is okay. I have a satellite phone. It gives me an enormous amount of peace of mind, and it is going to work when those towers come down, when they don't. So many people have been blessed because of satellite phones. They've been able to bless their neighbors in natural disasters and emergency situations, something I've talked with Tina Blanco, who is the founder and CEO of Satellite Phone Store, about very often. You could be that one person in your neighborhood that could help people get in touch with loved ones if for some reason everything goes down. They also have generators and solar panels, Faraday products, bivy sticks. Bivy sticks are amazing. It's a device that you actually use with your cell phone that turns your cell phone into a satellite phone, right? If the towers go down, and it's a little more affordable than a full cell phone package. But Satellite Phone Store always makes those packages affordable for the Joy audience. Right now, free Faraday bulletproof backpack when you sign up for a year with the Satellite Phone Store. So you get the free phone, you get a nice low monthly rate for the service, and also a very high value. I want to say it's worth a couple $100. The Faraday, which is the EMF blocking technology, bulletproof backpack. It's a great thing to send your kids off to college with. I sent one down to my son Jackson. He uses it. And it just gives me some peace of mind there. So sat123.com/joy, sat123.com/joy. Welcome back, everyone, to the final segment of the Shannon Joy Show. Just a couple more minutes to close out the show. Sorry for that last segment. I flew through it. I wanted to get through everything. Took a little bit longer on the Jay Bhattacharya piece than I had planned on. But again, I think everything that we did today was important. Sometimes you got to take your time and get through these things. But I definitely wanted to get to it because, Rothen Walker would have, smacked me upside the head. I see your comment here, Rothen Walker. Do you think there is anything that would convince you in a concrete way that it was either Israel or the U.S. wagging, or is it all too shadowy to know? There is just so much out there, Rothen Walker, that there are so many villains, and they come in so many shapes and sizes, and they speak all of the languages. It's hard to know, it's so often people want to point to the villain. They want to decide, it's the Democrats, the Republicans, the Jews, the Blacks, the Christians, the British, whatever. It's the Russians, the Chinese, everyone you talk to has their silo, right? Their controlled idea of who the villain is. And it's one of the reasons that I think the Epstein story is so incredibly important, because Epstein, this story itself, is so broad. Again, it's human trafficking, sex trafficking, it is cartels, it's money laundering, it is the billionaire oligarch class, it is diplomats, government officials, multiple countries, transnational organizations, it's intelligent agencies here in the US and in Israel and in Britain. It encapsulates the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, right-wing media, left-wing media. And it has a way of busting through the limiting paradigms of all of the institutions that are trying to grapple with it, because it indicts them all. So to say it's just the Jews, I just can't go there yet. Is the Israeli government corrupt? Yes. Would they sacrifice their own people and start wars and commit democides to gain money and power? Of course they would. But so would the American government, so would the British government, so would the Russian government, and so would the Chinese government. And all different, they all come in different shapes and sizes. So for me, that is the trap of this, is trying to decide exactly who the one villain is. I think it is more likely lots of bad guys who've gained too much power that need to be exposed. And at the end of the day, I don't really care who it is. I just want it all exposed. And I think if you focus too narrowly on just the Jews or on just Israel, then you are going to be missing some of the other critical villains that are absolutely necessary in keeping this cartel, this international criminal cartel, in power. So I just think it's too narrow. That's really all I would say there. Yes, that was my telephone, and yes, it was it was Ed Dowd. I had to send him straight to voicemail. So I saw that. CJP Rumble, you're so funny. And yes, Strident Conservative, I see your comment as well. Yeah, it's an important, it's an important topic. I think it's an important issue, and we're going to grapple with it a little bit more tomorrow. I know that Ryan Christian is very well versed in a lot of these issues, and so we're going to be continuing this discussion, also an economic discussion, tomorrow on the Shannon Joy Show, and I'll also get his thoughts on the piece by Jay Bhattacharya as well. But we have run out of time. Thank you all so much for being with us today on the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you to Susie. I know that you don't agree with all of us, but I appreciate your perspective on the live chat. Mark the Regan, thanks for being with us. Karen Carpenter 27, appreciate you. LT Oracle of Truth, I appreciate you as well. Thank you everyone on the live chat. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.